Agenda's adopted. Okay, time to public forum. Open public forum. Anybody here have anything they want to bring up in the public forum? Hearing none, we'll close the public forum and address the minutes from our August 13th, 2019 regular meeting. Entertain motion and second to approve the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes approved. Okay, we'll move to action items. First, internal controls. Casey.
This month we chose to review the internal controls surrounding payrolls, and the testing template and results were attached for your review, but we did not find any deficiencies.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none. I will, let's see, entertain motion and second to approve the internal control.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We're ready for the voice of customer report from, is it Chelsea?
Yep, Chelsea Morrison. Just get this turned on here.
You guys can turn yours to B and you'll see the presentation on your screen.
All right, can we see it up there?
Push that to C.
We did.
Yeah.
And we've got a written copy here as well.
Just on the computer, you need to click down on the presentation.
Do an external monitor? I think the
There we go. Yep.
Cool.
Okay. Well, thanks for having us. My name is Chelsea Morrison, and I'm with Strategic Marketing Services at the University of Northern Iowa. And this was our third time conducting the Voice of the Customer research for Waverly Utilities. So we started in 2015, set kind of a benchmark, and then 2017, and now this year in 2019. So I'll start by going through the methodology that we used for the research, and then move into the survey results by topic area, and then go over some conclusions based on the data to help piece everything together. So our objective was to assist Waverly Utilities in developing the Voice of the Customer research, really designed to monitor customer satisfaction and feedback related to some of your current products and services, including telecommunications, which was added in 2017. So this was our first year to kind of compare back to that. Also looking at customer service quality and some of the overall perceptions that households have of Waverly Utilities. And then new this year, we looked at electric vehicle interest as well. So the study was really designed to improve and foster customer relationships, and again to track some deficiencies or areas of improvement going forward. So we did this year, similar to the past 2 years, we did a self-completion mail survey that was accompanied by a cover letter. We mailed that to 2,000 randomly selected households in Waverly, and then we also did an additional 500 surveys to some of those younger demographics, so the 18 to 39-year-olds, to help boost that response rate as well. And we had an online option, which there was more interest in this year, so that was great. We offered an incentive of a chance to win an iPad, similar to the past couple of surveys, and we ended up receiving 485 surveys. 88 of those were online. We were a little bit more critical this year of which individuals to keep in the survey, so anyone who didn't fill out the demographics properly or skipped a lot of questions or filled out questions incorrectly, we removed them from the survey. So we ended ended up having 376 usable surveys, and that was a statistically valid sample. So again, this year we did weight the sample. We had more in that 60-plus-year-old demographic and fewer in the younger demographic. So weighing the sample kind of diminishes the voice of the older respondents and increases the voice of the younger respondents. So for that, yeah, go ahead.
Is that typical that you need to do that kind of thing in a public survey like this?
It is typical, especially for smaller communities. We did do some social media ads as well this year that was new. So that did cause us to not have to weight it quite as much as we have in past years. But going forward, I'd say we'll want to do more of those types of efforts, or maybe even do some intercept interviews in areas where throughout Waverly where maybe that younger demographic tends to hang out, just to make sure we can boost that response rate. So. Then for the 2019 demographic, so after we weighed the survey, then we can see that for age it was spread out fairly evenly, as well as gender, and the demographics were very similar to 2017, especially for gender and the length of residency and home ownership. So then new in 2019, we asked a question about how people prefer to receive news and service updates. So the majority, or over 3/4, prefer the Waverly Utilities newsletter, followed by email. And then I also wanted to point out that about 20% do prefer social media updates as well. So then we'll move into service quality. And the number of calls to Waverly Utilities remained nearly the same this year as in 2017. So over half did not contact Waverly Utilities for any reason. And the highest percentage of calls were in relation to telecom bills or electric bill questions. Then as far as customer service ratings go, they remained higher or steady across all of those areas in 2019. And the highest rated areas were for acting professionally, being friendly, and being knowledgeable. So then next, for overall service quality, we can see that there was just a little bit of a dip from 2015 to 2017, probably when some of those changes were being implemented with customer service, but now we're back up to just about that same rate from 2015 in the current year. And then as far as technician visits, there were less this year than in 2017, but telecom technician visits continued to dominate in 2019, but it was a significant decrease from 2017. And then in 2019, technicians were most highly rated for being friendly and acting professionally and being knowledgeable. So again, those service ratings were very high overall. All of them increased a little bit since 2017, with the exception of proactively solving my problem, which experienced just a little bit of a decrease. And then for the overall satisfaction with technicians, that increased to 4.66 out of 5 in 2019. And there were significant increases specifically for line workers and meter technicians. But I do want to point out that the sample sizes for those were pretty small. So that's just something to keep in mind when we're looking at that data. All right. Then for the next question, we asked respondents to rate their level of agreement for 6 different general utility attributes. And the attributes that had the most agreement in 2019 were for outstanding electric service reliability, being locally owned, and having prompt or responsive customer service. And we can see that fairly priced electric and fairly priced telecom were rated the lowest, but they did significantly increase from 2017.
So is that, again, you do, I assume, a number of these surveys, and is that typical? I mean, those are noticeably less than sort of the service-related questions, the price-related questions, the money-related. Is that typical or,
Yeah, I'd say that kind of lines up with other municipal utilities that we've done similar research for. But they're still fairly high overall, so they're still at a 3.5. So I don't think it's anything to be really concerned about.
I would just add that nobody's ever satisfied with price, no matter
Right.
what you do.
That's the reason I-
And so that is just kind of a common effect you will see when you're measuring price against other factors. Typically, price is always going to be the smallest, even if they are generally satisfied. Like, these are decent scores, they're not bad scores. But other things are typically going to be higher.
Okay, and then we asked a ranking question. So respondents were asked to rank the top 3 most important attributes for utilities. So not surprisingly, similar to the past 2 times we've done this study, being a reliable provider and having low prices, again, were those top 2 ranked attributes. And then I also wanted to point out that in 2019, respondents did place significantly less importance on providing energy efficiency programs and being locally owned compared to 2017. Okay. And then for the overall perception of Waverly Utilities or overall satisfaction, that increased slightly to a mean of 4.29 out of 5. So again, that's the highest rating out of the last 3 times that we've done the study. Okay, so now we will move on to internet services. And we found that over 90%, so the majority of Waverly residents have internet services in their home, and primarily they're getting it from Waverly Utilities. So there was a significant increase from 2017 for your market share. MediaCom is the following at just 15.9%, and their market share decreased this year. And then for those that are not currently using Waverly Utilities for internet services, the top reason, almost half said that it's too expensive. And then over 50% mentioned other reasons. So those were kind of all across the board, but some of the ones that popped by multiple people included staying with their current provider or just having a bundle commitment already in place. Some didn't know that it was available or how to get started, and some just haven't had the time to check it out yet.
this one caught my eye a little bit, so I'll go ahead and talk, I guess.
Sure.
Particularly the stay with current provider. I mean, and Jeff and Daryl, I don't know if you guys have talked about this before, but, it's that kind of old inertia thing. I mean, I'm where I'm at, and I take effort to move, and I'm just not going to do the effort. Mm-hmm. And, for the past few years, we've just been busy bringing people in just without having to do too much. And, you said maybe at some point we would do more. And this is one where I kind of look at it and say, it would make sense to me if there's a fair number of people out there that maybe, if they thought about it a little bit, would want to switch, but they just don't want to mess with it, change my email address or whatever. Is there anything that we should think about, kind of looking forward to help people in that position?
Yeah.
Or is there anything we can do?
Great question. Quick question first. How far out are we scheduled?
We're out till the beginning of October.
So right now it's about getting connections to people that want it.
Right.
So we've talked about when that starts to diminish and slow down, we've got some things that we've talked about that we'd like to launch and roll out. But in the meantime, we don't want to create a lot of new connections or requests for new requests because we don't have the manpower to keep up with it. We'd have to spend additional for contract labor. So right now we're just 3 weeks out. We want to keep up with that, keep hooking people up that are just walking the door. So we're going to stay with that for now. But yeah, we do have some things in the pipe that we'd like to launch later.
So that
Makes
would be,
sense.
we're looking at like next year to do something?
Yeah, based on that, people
Trend.
keep coming through the door.
Yeah.
As long as that trend continues, I think we'll just hold the line and get them connected. And then when we see that we've peaked out on that, we're going to initiate some new incentives or new products.
Okay. And part of that, we're building out fiber, so we got new customers. We're going by new. That's part of the group coming in the door.
Correct. And 2020 should be, we'll capture the territory of the last of the electric service territory. So that'll be at the end of 2020. We'll have that option available for the last. There was 400 rural customers. At the end of this year, we'll have 300 of those bypass, and the end of next year, we'll have all 400 covered by fiber. So we definitely want to get that done.
Okay, so moving on to the next slide, we can see that Waverly Utility customers are significantly more satisfied than your competitors across all 6 of the attribute areas for internet, especially in some of those service-related areas, so ease of tech support, knowledgeable tech support, and responsiveness to problems, and Waverly Utilities especially outperform Mediacom in those areas. Next, new this year, we asked a couple of questions about streaming and related providers. So we can see that nearly half of respondents in 2019 frequently stream TV or movies. So that means 15 to 30 times per month they're streaming. And then about a third stream often or occasionally. And not too surprisingly, the 18 to 39 younger demographic are significantly more likely to be streaming frequently. And Netflix is the provider used most often, followed by YouTube as well as Amazon. And then about a third of the group also use Hulu and TV network sites. Okay, so next we'll move on to telephone services. And we found this year that over half of respondents have cell phones only, and that was a significant increase from 2017. About 5% have a landline only, and 1/4 have both a landline and a cell phone. You'll see there's about 15% that said they don't have a phone for any reason. We've tried to change the way that we ask this question. We think there's some people that just get confused with that. The national statistic is about 99% of people have some sort of phone. So we'll work again next year to or next time we do this, to change the way we ask that question so it's a little bit more clear to people. And Waverly Utilities was the top provider for landlines, and that did significantly increase from 2017, and we can see that CenturyLink customers decreased quite a bit as well. All right,
So
and go ahead.
The 54% that don't have landlines, is that, I don't know what the national number is that close to the national number, or?
Oh, the 54% that have cell phones only?
Yeah.
I didn't take a look at that. I don't know if I had that in there, but that's something that we could look up and get that information to you later today if you'd like.
That was a big jump, 20%.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I'll have to compare that back to the national statistics and see how that compares. Okay. And then as far as those who don't use Waverly Utilities for landlines, the main reason by nearly half was that they are currently bundling with another telecom provider. Otherwise, about a fourth said that it's too expensive. And then a few of those other frequently mentioned areas included, again, just not wanting to change or not knowing that it was available. And again, it was the 18 to 39-year-olds that were significantly more likely to have a cell phone only compared to those older age groups. All right, and then as far as the motivation for having a landline, the top motivation is for emergencies or for E911 service, followed by having it as a part of their telecom package or just wanting a directory or phone book listing. And some of those other frequently mentioned areas included just not wanting everyone calling their cell phone, ease for younger children, as well as sometimes cell phone service just not being reliable. Okay, then as far as satisfaction goes, again, Waverly Utilities continues to significantly outperform your competitors throughout all four of the areas, but especially in sound clarity and reliability. Okay, so now we'll move on to cable television services. So the majority of respondents have at least one TV in the home, which is not too surprising. And we asked new this year a question having them rank out of these 4 areas, ABC, CBS, Fox, and NBC, the most watched to the least watched. So a lower mean value indicates that it's more watched. So we found that NBC was the most watched channel, followed by ABC, and then the least watched channel was Fox. All right, and then as far as cable and satellite TV service at home, about 64% have the service at home, and that is a significant decrease from 2017. And over half of those that do have cable or satellite use Waverly Utilities, and that did increase significantly from last year, or last time we did the study, followed by 25% with MediaCom, which is a little bit of a decrease. And I did want to note as well that Waverly Utilities customers are mostly comprised of 60-plus-year-olds as well as 40 to 59, so it's less than 20% of your customers are that 18 to 39 age group. Okay, and then for those that are not currently using Waverly Utilities for cable TV, the top reasons were that it's too expensive, they've already bundled with another telecom provider, and then about 1/4 said that the channel lineup is insufficient. So we did ask a follow-up question to those that selected that option, asking them for what channels that they'd like to add. It was kind of all across the board, but some of the ones that were mentioned a few times included Fox Sports, Midwest, and Nickelodeon. And then in that other reasons section, again, people just didn't want to switch from their current provider, said that it wasn't available in their area or mandated by an association or rental.
Just want to point out the irony there, to add those 2 channels would add about $10 to their cable bill.
Right.
So, too expensive, not the right channels. With Nickelodeon, there's 7 other channels you have to take. And Fox Sports is a regional sports, and they're expensive, so.
Okay. Okay, then the next table shows the main reasons that respondents chose their cable or satellite provider. So aggregately, the main reason is price, followed by local ownership as well as channel lineup. But for Waverly Utilities specifically, local ownership by far was the top reason that people chose you guys, followed by price and just not liking other providers or having multiple services in one bill. Whereas for Dish Network and DirecTV, channel lineup was the top reason that they were chosen, and for MediaCom, price was the most important. Okay. Then, as far as satisfaction goes, Waverly Utilities rated highest in more of the service-related areas, so knowledgeable tech support, having ease of tech support contact, responsiveness to problems, and reliability of service were the top-rated ones. Dish Network and MediaCom rated a bit higher than Waverly Utilities in channel lineup, and Dish Network also rated higher than Waverly Utilities for picture quality and price. And then we found that only less than 12% of respondents have discontinued cable or satellite in the past 12 months. And of those that did, MediaCom was the top provider, followed by DirecTV. And it was only about 5% of those that were Waverly Utilities customers. And we found that the top reason that respondents were discontinuing cable service was for price again, or just not watching it enough to get their money's worth. All right, so then the last section here is electric vehicles, which was newly added in 2019. So we did find that the majority, over 80%, do not currently own or plan to own an electric vehicle in the next 5 years. Less than 1% currently own, and less than 5% would plan to purchase one in the next 5 years. And then we asked a follow-up question to that, how likely people would be to purchase an all-electric vehicle if fast charge stations were made available in Waverly. And we can see that about half are not at all likely, and just over 10% are very or extremely likely to purchase an all-electric vehicle. And kind of interestingly, we found that males and those that have lived in Waverly for less than 10 years were significantly more likely to purchase an all-electric vehicle. And then we also asked a new question this year about possible future services and an interest in those. So we found that there's kind of a moderate level of interest in Wi-Fi 6 and home monitoring services to be added. And again, it's that younger demographic, the 18 to 39-year-olds, that showed significantly more interest in adding those, as well as the app to manage internet usage and stats. All right, so now we'll go through a few conclusions to kind of wrap up and bring everything together. So again, keeping prices low continues to be very important to customers of Waverly Utilities and just Waverly residents in general. And telecom is perceived to be more fair price-wise than electric, but electric prices were perceived to be better in 2019 than 2017. So price and value did receive the highest satisfaction over competitors, especially in the areas of internet and telephone. And then it was the second highest for cable and satellite services. And there was a significant decrease in cable services in 2019. So those subscriptions are starting to downtrend, or they're decreasing while streaming is gaining more popularity, especially again for that younger demographic. 18 to 39 and 40 to 59-year-olds are significantly more likely to be streaming than 60 and above. And then as far as satisfaction goes, telecom customers are the most satisfied over competitors in general, and they provided the highest satisfaction ratings across all of the attributes for internet, all 4 of the attributes for telephone, and then especially in those customer service areas for cable. So Waverly Utilities clearly dominates in all those service delivery areas, and remain competitive on price and value, but lag a little bit on the features related to cable, so channel lineup and picture quality compared to Dish Network and Mediacom. And there was a low interest in electric vehicles and fast charge stations at this time. So again, the majority of respondents, over 80%, do not currently own or plan to own in the next 5 years, and only about 10% are very or extremely likely to purchase an all-electric vehicle. And then we had a moderate interest in adding home monitoring and Wi-Fi 6 services, especially for that younger demographic. And then this year's results are kind of back up to that benchmark. So when we started in 2015, that was just kind of set as a benchmark to see where you were at with customer service. And then with some of the changes made in 2017, we took a little bit of a dip, but now across the board, we're at the same level or even higher than 2015. So great news overall. So now if there's any questions or discussion, I'd be happy to take those.
Just curious on your definition of Wi-Fi 6.
We'd have to look in the report. I know we included
In the report itself.
yes, in the report itself, I believe we had a definition of what that was, or the survey itself. I don't have a copy of it with me, but I think it was just a very general, like faster Wi-Fi, basically.
Jeff, I think my understanding, Wi-Fi 6 is a better coverage Wi-Fi?
Yep, so it's the next generation Wi-Fi or 802.11ax. But yeah, it has better distance coverage, better air protection. So, but next generation, there was Wi-Fi 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So
Is that something we can sell?
it is.
Is that just a technology upgrade that will happen anyway?
So once all the vendor devices, so Samsung laptop providers start to embed that, then that'll be something that we'll have to support, and it'll have to be a different device or technology that we put in the home or business.
Okay, so we could attach a price to upgrade to Wi-Fi 6?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I was real interested in Jeff talked about cutting the cord always and actually see it on the survey that 20% cut the cord on phone and 10% over 2 years ago cut the cord on cable. And, so that's pretty telling to me that
Right.
what's happening. So.
That's not unique to your area.
No, that's
other
across the
customers in
board.
Iowa that we work with are seeing the same trends.
And that's a good point, segue out. since you do other municipalities, is there a way to see an aggregate of what they have? Have you ever discussed that with other people? to
We
see?
have not. I know Cedar Falls, we do theirs, and I know that they have shared results with you guys. We're just getting ready to launch theirs in the next
Okay.
week. And so I'm sure we can ask and probably receive permission to share some of that data back with you when it's completed.
That would be-
Spencer is the other one we've worked with, and Benton Utilities are the two others that we work with more consistently.
It'd be interesting to see it aggregate. I wouldn't want, you probably don't want to release Cedar Falls, unless we get written permission, but I would assume most of them would be agreeable to
Yeah.
aggregate.
I don't know if that we asked that on Spencer or Benton.
Yeah, those were a year or two ago, so I don't know that we asked that question, but going forward, I'm guessing we'll be asking that for all utilities.
And I know in the other survey, in the PowerPoint that I had, customer service did seem there was some issues in customer service.
Just like the overall service quality or office staff.
Making sure that we have the strategies in place when people call us or go to the office, that we can handle it accordingly. It just seemed like there was some concerns.
Yeah, let's see, I'm looking at the customer service attributes. So they were rated highly overall for being friendly, acting professionally knowledgeable, showing genuine concern, and timely resolution. And it all increased this year. Was there another slide you were looking at, maybe?
I wonder if it was just a one-off comment you read, maybe? Because I'm not surprised by, but incredibly impressed with the overall service ratings across the board. Congratulations to staff, well done, because, and you hear that out in the community a lot too, that service is just phenomenal. So I wonder if maybe it was a comment or something.
Oh, and maybe it was.
From an individual, or?
For technicians, there was a little bit of a dip in proactively solving my problem, but it was very slight. The overall rating was still a 4.56 out of 5, so maybe that's something to still be aware of.
We dipped in 2017, and again, that was probably bringing electric billing over,
Right.
city services, the chaos in getting all that reestablished. So I was glad to see that, we brought it back up to where it was before we started bringing billing in-house. So I know we dipped in 2017, brought it back in 2019.
Yeah, one of the lines that said here, and it is more directed at female respondents, showed a much lower rate
Oh, yep.
and general concern is, so is there a strategy or, that we should be using something different for those customers or?
And they were significantly lower, but it's still at a 4.36, so I'd say it's still fairly high. As far as strategy goes, do you have any thoughts, Christy?
Yeah, female response 4.21, rated staff members show genuine concern, significantly lower than male respondents at 4.57. That's what you guys said.
I think women just sometimes tend to be a little bit more critical. And this is anecdotal, it's not, I just feel like when we're asked to evaluate customer service, we have maybe a little bit higher expectations because we deal with that stuff a little bit more. Perhaps, I don't know, we could dig in and see if there's certain demographics, age groups within the women as well. But as Chelsea said, I don't think it's a problem. It might be something to maybe watch moving forward. If it continues to be an issue over the next year or two, then we might want to dig into that a little bit more. Or, maybe look at doing a training session on how women differ from men in customer service. You can always be proactive in doing those sorts of things. I don't think it's a problem area. Again, maybe it's more just something to watch moving forward and see if we see that continue to be an issue.
Okay.
Other questions, comments? Very good,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Excellent report. And I agree with Emily, it is very much a a compliment to the whole staff.
One of our strategic goals was to reach 4.3 overall positive perception. So we hit 4.29, and I think with the accuracy of the numbers, is that 4.3?
Round up.
So we're very close to what we tried to get to in our strategic plan.
Very good. All right. Moving on, other business. There's nothing on the agenda. Is there anything?
In front of you is the 7th Annual Energy Conference. That's through the Iowa Association of Municipal Utilities. It's probably their best conference of the year. It's in Des Moines. They have a pre-conference workshop on Wednesday, October 23rd on Iowa's electric vehicles, market impacts and resources. If anybody would like to attend, it's a good one to go to, and it's here in Iowa.
Awesome.
Yeah, good to know. Will we have staff attending?
I'll be there for sure. I don't know if anybody, other staff's signed up or not. I know Jeff is speaking at the telecom conference. When is that?
First part of October.
Oh, October. That's more of a close group because there's less members in the telecom group. So I think Jeff's giving a little bit of a talk down there on his experiences.
Cool. All right, board calendar. Any comments? Anything we should be looking for?
Budgets are the biggest things, I think, next 2 months.
All right, nothing else? We'll go ahead and move on to, let's see, getting the right spot here. Action items, Waverly Municipal Electric ratified trade accounts. Casey?
For the most part, it's just your standard monthly expenses, other than we did pay the property leases for the 3 wind turbines, and we did have to pay for the streetlight poles for the Cedar River Parkway.
Entertain motion second to approve the trade accounts.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, discussion? All those in favor of accepting the trade accounts, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll move on to the financials. Casey, again.
Total revenues year-to-date are $456,000 higher than the 2019 year-to-date budget due to the receipt of the mean rebate in June of $813,000. Kilowatt-hour sales for the month are $420,000 lower than July of last year. Total expenses year-to-date are $1.1 million lower than the 2019 year-to-date budget. Purchase power generation, including diesel and the WISA WS4, coal expenses, as well as billing expenses and community development with the historic loss not being completed yet, are lower than originally anticipated. So for the year-to-date, net income is $1.7 million higher than the 2019 year-to-date budget, so we feel we are on track to meet our budget.
So, this is the budget question, but do we move the historic loss into next year?
I did include it because at the last time that we talked, we will be surprised, I guess, if it's completed before the end of this year. If, come the November time that we see a different picture, we can always pull it out of there. So yes, it is currently in there.
We did hear this morning in the Economic Development Commission that they anticipate they'll be done.
By the end of the year.
I think based on what we've seen, we'd be surprised if they do get it done by the end of the year. So it could be one of those that are close, but they're not done. So.
Entertain motion second to approve financials.
So moved.
Second.
Any other questions? All those in favor of approving the financials as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approve the financials. Okay. Moving on to Resolution 32-19 reimbursement resolution. Casey?
So this is a standard resolution we do every month in case we would choose to bond. So this month, all we had was Louisa and WS4 assets.
All right, entertain motion and second to approve, or accept the reimbursement resolution.
So moved. Second.
Any other questions? Secretary, please call roll.
Sagerman?
Yes.
Meyendorf?
Yes.
Brunkhorst?
Aye.
Buckingham?
Yes.
Brunson?
Yes. Okay, resolution 32-19 approved. On to information items. Again, Casey, preliminary budget for 2020.
So operating revenues for 2020 of $19,068,180 does not include no rate increase for 2020. Kilowatt hour sales, what we used was an average of 2016 to 2018. Operating expenses, we have budgeted $18,123,614 with the general increase in most expenses of 2%. We did leave purchase power rates, including the FISC cost recovery cost and energy charges as flat with 2019. We do have two outside services this year, $10,000 for a stack testing, which is required every 5 years, and $20,000 for our rate study, which we complete every 2 years. We do have the historic lofts in here, like we previously mentioned, so our net income for 2020 is $884,566.
Question, this is just a review at this point, right? So
Yep,
just
so we'll review it in
questions.
September, October, and then you'll approve it in November.
You know, on the, you notice the, I think 3.5% and 2.75 on wages. Is that, what's that based on? Is that based on surveys or just, where does that come from?
I think part of that comes from when we hear about union agreements that have been passed in the area, and then the rest of it is based on just salary surveys throughout the association members.
Any other questions or comments at this point? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move to department reports. Okay, finance and customer accounts, Casey.
We continue to work with Cogsdale on the design spec for adding the electric water graph to our invoices as well as updating the budget billing display. They were hoping to have it by the end of August, but they've had some issues with their ticketing system, so they really have been struggling. So right now they're telling me the end of September. They're hoping to have my preliminary template for me to look at. CSR staff continue to perform the day-to-day functions of billing collections, including setting up new accounts, closing accounts, collection calls, and posting / disconnection notices. We have started training our new team lead of customer services and collections. I wanted to introduce Amber Stevens. She's been a great asset and has really jumped in. Having Cogsdale knowledge has been great because I've been swamped with budgets, and her being able to jump right in and help the CSRs out has been wonderful. We held the Attachment O annual meeting with Mean and Indianola, and we completed the preliminary budget for today's meeting.
Casey, you had the display graph. You're still targeting by the end of the year, so you feel?
I mean, we're hoping. I mean, it's all in Cogsdale's hand. They have to do the work to the template, so.
Good.
Yeah, welcome to Amber. Let's see, customer communication and education. Jen is not here.
Jen is not here today, so I'm going to take that for it. She's coordinated the third quarter customer newsletter. And I believe the newsletter's been going for about almost 2 years now. So it was interesting to see the survey results that 70-some% for get their newsletter. So I think it was a good idea to start the newsletter, put that out there. She did a tour for generation, County Conservation. Ads for LIHEAP. And if you have a complaint, take it to the IUB. Promoted appliance recycling rebate program, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram postings. So it's kind of nice we didn't have to post anything last night with that big storm that came through. Still ain't Kurt's thunder on that one, but those are handy social tools to put out if we do get an outage. I think we had a very small one. Kurt may talk about that later.
I was at a church meeting last night, and as we finished up, one of the members said, I just got a text from my wife, our electricity went out, but lives in rural out west of town, so I'm not sure who that would be, but who the provider would be. Said, you need Waverly Utilities. All right, generation substations. Kurt.
So the staff continue to work on the main distribution panel upgrade. This project's been going on for the last year or so. We're looking to get that wrapped up by the end of the year, but it's to get some old distribution panels out of the North Load Center and to help with some of the reliability on the network room in the service center. Some of the equipment that the staff is replacing is from the 1960s, so it's well past its age of expectation of longevity, so we're looking forward to getting that project wrapped up by the end of the year. We continue to work on, generation staff continues to work on Engine 8. If you recall, we have a fuel oil, lubrication oil containment system that's getting replaced, as well as control wiring to that engine. Everything still is on course to be completed in the next 4 to 7 weeks on that project. Our goal is to have that back online by November 1st. Our overhead crews completed the farmers market project. That involved relocating an overhead primary line to underground and the removal of 2 or 3 poles there at that facility for the City of Waverly's project that they'll be doing eventually. And then we also completed the City River Parkway project, mostly getting the lighting installed and completed on that phase of the project. An upcoming project we have coming up in the next, probably wrap up the rest of the year for overhead and underground crews is the Waverly Health Center. We'll be looking to get started on that in the next couple of weeks, and that'll probably carry us through the rest of the construction season then. We did all staff participated in a yearly pole top rescue. I should say the operations staff and telecom staff participated in pole top and bucket rescue training. That's part of the required training that they go through once a year. It's a 6-hour training course that they do. And we also took the opportunity to put all employees through the PASS fire extinguisher training. So all employees had the opportunity to go out, practice the fire extinguisher operation, and put out a small control burn. So we did that last month. Back to Daryl's lead in on the storm last night. Waverly fared very well once again. We had a total of 3 outages, and when I say 3 outages, it was 3 customers. Those were due to fuses being blown from tree limbs coming into contact with the phase. So we had 1 customer out from 8:15 to 9 o'clock last evening. We had 2 customers out this morning from 5:15 to 6:30. Pretty uneventful.
Very good.
As strong as that storm was, that's pretty remarkable that that's all we had for damage. And Kurt brushed on something on Engine 8 with the oil filters. He had to go out and find a different vendor. Our original vendor couldn't get the project done on time. And you have to keep in mind we're getting paid by mean for capacity. We can only be down a certain length of time. And this vendor had pushed us out way past that time frame. We would have lost thousands of dollars. Kurt found another vendor. They're going to get it done in time for an extra $800. So it was a good deal to get those done on time. And the other thing is, didn't we share that training with some city crews? And don't we bring in some other systems for that?
We did. We utilized Iowa Association of Municipal Utilities and their staff for the safety consulting part. But the City of Waverly had sent over a few of their Parks and Rec and Leisure Services Department staff that utilize their bucket trucks. We've done that for a number of years. When we have the training at our facility, we'll let City of Waverly come over and participate in the training as well.
I was thinking in the past we had Strawberry Point, some folks like that come in for some of that.
Yeah, once in a while they'll do that. If they don't get their training in before the end of the year, they'll come down and spend part of the day with us.
Thanks, Kurt.
That's good cooperation, that's kudos.
Other questions? All right, thank you. We'll move on to Waverly Communication Utility action items, trade accounts.
For the most part, it's your standard monthly things. You do see the Dubuque Bank and Trust on there. That will become a standard monthly as part of that new arrangement. We do have to send over a sinking fund payment each month. So that's what that payment is that's on there.
Entertain motion second to approve trade accounts.
So moved. Second.
Any questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approve the trade accounts. Okay, moving on to information items, monthly department reports. Casey.
So the CSR staff continues to perform the day-to-day of billing, troubleshooting technical calls, and keeping the daily installation and service schedule full. Like Jeff said, we are currently to about October, and we still have quite a few people in the pipe that need to call us back, so it's a pretty good problem. We are working with consortia, IMON, and CFU to review our current application of the USF fee to ensure it's being applied correctly. It seems like each company takes their own, has their own take or interpretation of how that should be applied. So we're working through how we want, what our interpretation is going to be in the policy that we're going to create to follow for that. And then we completed the preliminary 2020 budget for WCU.
I think to add to the USF confusion is that the FCC's talked about moving that to internet access charges because they're losing phone revenue. So the USF fee can seem to jump substantially to take care of the low-income folks that get that funding. So the FCC may change their funding, but again, we need to get our policy set in place. And here's how we're going to pay what we perceive to be USF funds.
All right, thanks, Casey. Jeff?
So as Casey said, we've been busy as far as activating new customers. I think I shared with the board that over the last 2 months, we've done probably just as many activations or near that as we did the first 6 months. So kudos to all staff related to the telecom installations, activations. Been staying really busy. So it's a good problem to have. But
Is there, just on that one, is there anything in particular you can point to that's caused that, or?
Yeah, just kind of anecdotally. So Wartburg started up, kind of comes to my mind first off. But, we've done some students. Otherwise, I can't really pinpoint the exact reason. We're 3 years into our service.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some folks that had 3-year agreements might be coming up where price is an issue and they're willing to make the change. So nothing that I can say definitively, here's why we've seen an uptick. But it did coincide with Wartburg starting up.
I think you bring up a good point, Jeff, that when consumers look at full price at the competitor versus our full price, we're significantly lower at the full price for our services.
So we couldn't come to an agreement with CSN Chicago or NBC Sports Chicago, so we'll no longer distribute after the end of this month. So I don't think we're the only cable company that's made that choice. I think there's some other munis that are not going to carry CSN Chicago, just for the fact that they won't carry the Cubs any longer. The Cubs will now be on a new network, partially owned by the Cubs, so Marquee Sports Network, and we're starting to have conversations with them about distributing that channel or that service.
So what's the communication to our customers? How are you going to communicate that?
We sent out a letter to every video customer informing them that CSN Chicago would no longer be available after the end of this month, and that we're working diligently to come to an agreement with Marquee Sports.
Any feedback from that?
I don't think so. I don't think we've gotten anything directly. No phone calls in. What I hear at Exchange the other day was, we better have the Cubs on. That's our goal. Unless it's some astronomical price, I expect we'll carry the Cubs.
Jeff, I know that this is a complicated, but in a kind of general, simple way, could you explain, since we're televised, how this works, your interaction with networks and the price increases that you see and how we have to revisit that?
Yep. So when we started out in 2016, a lot of our agreements are through NCTC, so National Cable Television Cooperative. And so a lot of the networks we negotiate, or NCTC negotiates on our behalf. There's a few networks, such as CSN Chicago, that don't work through the NCTC that we negotiate directly. And that's just some communication with them. When we first started out, we leveraged some of the resources at CFU to make those contacts, just from our channel lineup standpoint. And then we basically get a bid or a price document from CSN, and then every three years they come up for renewal. The big change on this one was they were dropping a valuable team, sport, and the price reduction didn't really compare with the pricing. The pricing didn't match what our viewership expects, I guess.
Thanks.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Clear as mud.
I would like to add, Jeff, that I think all of these contracts are specified to be confidential, so we can't share the price of the programming with the general public. And I think the general public would have a better grasp if we told them actually what they were requesting for pricing and how outrageous it can be. That either we pay it or we shut them off, and it's pretty tough sometimes.
You could tell them they've negotiated a 10% increase, a percentage increase you can.
Yeah, in the last retransmission consent fee negotiation, we had a 258% increase in programming costs. So yeah, but we can't tell you what that number is, but 258% is ridiculous, and it's very frustrating to be faced with that kind of an increase and be left with no choice but to pay it or shut it off.
Yeah, when we first started out in 2016, just the retrans stations, the primary big four, they from 2016 to 2019, they've gone up over 80% in aggregate. So
Yep. And so for the public, I mean, it's we're gonna have some point in time we're gonna have a conversation about maybe dropping a channel or something like that. That conversation may happen in the future.
we'll negotiate fairly and see where we land, I guess.
Well, I think, and I'm not sure I completely understand this either, but I think the other thing that folks don't understand is, well, so why don't you offer an option where that channel isn't on, and so I can kind of avoid it if it costs so much. But it's true that there are several of those channels where it's, like Daryl was saying, it's either we offer it or we don't.
Right. Yeah. There aren't any real a la carte options. That's just not available from a distribution standpoint in any of the agreements.
We would like them to give us that option. If a customer wants to pay them the price they're asking, then let us sell it to that customer. But the contracts and the writing in the contract says you will carry it on the most watched tier. So that's our basic or our expanded basic tier, and they write the contract so that we must carry it so that they get paid for every single customer in that tier. So we're being blocked from a la carte programming, which we'd love to offer.
So just to wrap up, we completed the installation out at the bus barn and the airport. So conversations with both of those customers seem pretty happy.
Good. It's good. I know that's been some time coming, so that's good to have now. Let's see, Jen, you're Jen?
And Jen, she was talking about the letter that was mailed out notifying the customers. So I think that hit a couple weeks ago.
Right. Yeah, we gave at least 30 days notice.
All right. Thank you very much. It's per Iowa Code 22.7, confidential competitive information. Entertain motion second to move to closed session.
So moved. Second.
Secretary, please call roll.
Sagerman?
Yes.
Neuendorf?
Yes.
Brunkhorst?
Aye.
Buckingham?
Yes.
Brunson?
See you, Shelley.
All right,
Shelley.
we will
Thank
move to closed session. Do we need to?
Kurt, are you?